September 12th, 1958, 11:47 at night. Big Sam's hand trembled as his fingers tightened around the cold steel of the pistol. $50,000. That was the bounty the 5 families placed on Bumpy Johnson's head. And Sam, his shadow for 5 years, the man Bumpy called Blood, had signed the death warrant. The job was supposed to be clean. Walk into Lenox Lounge. Wait for the boss to look away. 1 bullet to the back of the skull. Fade into the darkness. Sam stepped inside. Bumpy sat there, back exposed, completely defenseless. Sam leveled the piece, took aim, squeezed the trigger. Click. Dead silence. The noise in the room died. Bumpy turned slowly, drilling holes through Sam with a stare cold as ice, and spoke 5 words that would echo like a gavel. I have been counting on you. What the history books leave out is simple. Bumpy Johnson knew the hit was coming for 3 weeks. And what he did in that time didn't just keep him breathing. It rewrote the laws of power in Harlem. To understand the weight of that night at Lenox Lounge, you have to know who Bumpy Johnson really was in 1958. He wasn't just a wise guy. He was the shield of Harlem, the iron wall standing between his people and the predators hungry to feed on them. By the late 50s, the neighborhood was under fire. The Italian mob, the 5 families, had been trying to muscle in on the numbers racket for years. That game was a gold mine, spare change from the poor building empires worth millions. And the Italians wanted to wet their beaks with every penny. But they hit a wall. His name was Bumpy Johnson. He built a machine the mob couldn't figure out. He didn't just rule with muscle, he ruled with respect. When families were short on rent, Bumpy covered the tab. When the cops leaned on black businesses, Bumpy made the calls to back them off. When the mob tried to step on local toes, Bumpy shoved back hard. The 5 families threw the kitchen sink at him. They sent hitmen. Bumpy sent back bodies. They tried talking. Bumpy told them Harlem wasn't on the menu. They tried grease and bribes. Bumpy knew bigger players. By 1958, the families were sweating, and desperate men make sloppy moves. Frank Costello, the Prime Minister of the underworld, called a sit-down. Every family sent a boss. The agenda? The Bumpy Johnson headache. We used muscle. We used cash. We used politics, Costello said, voice dead as a grave. Nothing sticks. The guy is a ghost. What's the play? Asked Carlo Gambino, lighting up a cigar. Costello leaned in. We make him bleed. Find the one guy he trusts with his life, and we flip him. That's when Big Sam's name hit the table. Foster had been Bumpy's right hand since '53, 6'4", 260 pounds of concrete and loyalty. He'd eaten lead for Bumpy twice. He stood by him at his mother's funeral. He fought in the trenches against Dutch Schultz's crew, through the raids and the heat. If anyone could get within striking distance of Bumpy Johnson, it was Big Sam. The families tapped Tony the Collector to set the hook. Tony was a mechanic of the mind. He didn't break bones. He found the cracks in a man's soul. August 20th, 1958. 3 weeks out. Big Sam stepped onto 132nd Street when a black Cadillac rolled up slow. The glass slid down. Tony Marconi sat in the back, grinning like a shark. Sam, Big Sam, your reputation precedes you. Sam's hand drifted to the .45 at his waist. Who wants to know? Just a pal, someone looking to make you a rich man. Tony patted the empty seat. Give me 5 minutes. Hear the pitch. If you don't like the numbers, you walk. No heat. Sam should have kept walking, but curiosity kills. He slid into the car. Tony got straight to business. You're a sharp guy, Sam. You know the score. You love Bumpy, and that's honorable. But honor doesn't pay the doctors for your little girl. Sam's jaw locked tight, grinding his teeth. The weight of the world was crushing him. His youngest, Keisha, had been fighting the white plague, tuberculosis, for 6 long months. The treatments were bleeding him dry. The hospital bills weren't just paper, they were a mountain he couldn't climb, piling higher every day. Sam had gone to Bumpy, hat in hand. The boss threw him $2,000 out of respect, but it wasn't enough. In this game, it was never enough. Then came Tony. He cracked open the briefcase, revealing the devil's own candy. Neat, crisp stacks of $100 bills. $50,000, Tony said, his voice smooth as silk. That is the offer. Enough to wipe every debt. Enough to move your family to safety, somewhere clean, somewhere your little girl can finally breathe. Sam looked at the cash, then at Tony. For what? He asked, his voice cold. But deep down, he already knew the price. In this life, 50 grand buys a lot of blood. One bullet, one moment. You walk into the Lenox Lounge on September 12th, Tony instructed. Bumpy will be holding court there, just like he always is on Friday nights. You wait for him to laugh, to get distracted. Then one shot to the back of the head, quick, clean. Then you vanish. We have a car waiting at the curb. New papers, new names for the whole family. By the time the sun rises, you will be breathing ocean air in Miami. By next week, you will be a ghost. Sam stared at the green stacks. $50,000. It was his daughter's life against a trigger pull. And if I say no? Sam asked, his voice barely a whisper. Tony's smile vanished. Then your daughter dies slowly in that charity ward, surrounded by strangers. Then you stay a soldier for Bumpy, watching your back every second of every day, knowing that a bullet with your name on it is already in the chamber. Because you know how this life ends. Sam, don't be stupid. You know it, I know it. The only question is whether you go into the ground poor or rich. Sam stepped out of the car without a word. The silence was heavy, but the image of that briefcase stayed with him. Tony had left it open on the seat, purposefully. The stacks of money glowing in the streetlights, tempting him. That night, sleep was a stranger to Sam. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw his daughter's face. He heard her labored breathing, saw the brave smile she forced through the agony. Then, the image shifted to that briefcase. Enough money to save her life. Enough money to buy them a future. 3 days of hell passed. Sam made his choice. He dialed the number Tony had given him. I am in, Sam said, his voice hollow. But I want the cash up front. Half in my hand now, half after the deed is done, Tony replied. Welcome to the winning side. But what Big Sam didn't realize, and what Tony was too arrogant to see, was that before Sam even touched that Cadillac door handle, Bumpy Johnson already knew the play. Bumpy Johnson didn't become the king of Harlem by trusting people. He kept his crown by knowing people, by understanding the simple truth. Every man has a price, every armor has a crack, and anyone can be bought or broken. Bumpy had eyes on every corner. Bartenders, shoeshine boys, cab drivers, janitors. The invisible people, the ones the Italian mob treated like furniture, never thinking to pay them any mind. And one of those ghosts, a parking attendant named Jerome, had watched Tony Marconi's Cadillac roll up to Sam's spot like a shark. He had seen Sam get in. He had clocked the license plate. 2 hours later, the intel moved up the chain. Jerome stood in the Holy of Holies, Bumpy's office above Small's Paradise Jazz Club. Tony Marconi's ride, Jerome said. He slid a scrap of paper across the mahogany desk. Parked right outside Big Sam's place this morning. Sam got in, stayed 5 minutes, got out. Bumpy looked at the paper, his face a stone mask. He looked up at Jerome. You sure it was Marconi? Positive. I have seen his face around. He collects for the Italian joints on the east side. Bumpy went silent. The room temperature seemed to drop. Slowly, he opened his desk drawer. He peeled off $500 and handed it to Jerome. You didn't see anything today. You were never here. We clear? Yes, sir, Mr. Johnson. After Jerome left, Bumpy sat alone in the shadows for 2 hours. Just thinking, Sam had been his soldier for 5 years. Good years. Loyal years. They had survived wars together. Bumpy had trusted that man with his life. But now, the Italians were whispering poison in Sam's ear. And if there was one thing Bumpy knew about desperate men, it was this: they make fatal mistakes. Bumpy could have signed Sam's death warrant right there. One phone call, and Sam would be floating in the East River. That is what any other boss in the game would have done. Most bosses would put a bullet in a traitor and sleep soundly. But Bumpy Johnson wasn't playing checkers. He was playing chess. For 3 long weeks, Bumpy sat back and watched Big Sam like a hawk circling a nervous rabbit. He clocked the tremors in Sam's hands. He saw the sweat of a guilty conscience beating on the man's brow. He was watching a soldier break under the weight of an impossible choice: loyalty to the king or saving his own skin. And Bumpy made his play. He wouldn't clip Sam just yet. No, he was going to school him. Bumpy called in a heavy marker from a specialist in Brooklyn, a craftsman named Victor, a man who had been doctoring hardware for the Johnson organization for 15 hard years. "I got a job for you," Bumpy said, his voice cold as ice. "I need you to build me a piece that refuses to sing." Victor frowned, confused. "You want a broken heater?" "No. I want a weapon that looks like the real McCoy, feels heavy in the hand, looks lethal. But when the finger squeezes that trigger, silence, no lead flies, no hammer strike, just a dead click. You want a prop?" Bumpy leaned in. "I want a lie made of steel. Can you handle it?" Victor nodded. For Bumpy, he could do anything. 3 days later, Victor dropped off a modified .38 Special. It was a dead ringer for Sam's service piece. Same balance, same grit. But internally, it was completely neutered. Now came the delicate part: the swap. Bumpy had to switch out Sam's live cannon for the dud, and he had to do it blind. That meant infiltrating the rat's nest while the rat was out. On September 8th, 4 days before the scheduled hit, Bumpy sent Sam on a fool's errand across the city. "Go pick up a package in the Bronx," Bumpy ordered. "It's life or death. Don't show your face without it." That run would cost Sam 3 hours minimum. The window was open. The moment Sam's taillights faded, Bumpy and his right-hand man, the stone-cold Illinois Gordon, made their move. They slipped into Sam's apartment like ghosts. They found the heater stashed in a shoebox beneath the mattress, exactly where an amateur would hide it. Gordon made the switch. Victor's dummy gun went into the box. Sam wouldn't know he was carrying a paperweight. Now, Bumpy played the waiting game. He had to let the traitor hang himself. If Bumpy stepped to Sam now, the man would deny it. He'd plead innocence. The Italians would just find another puppet. The war would drag on. No, Bumpy needed Sam to pull that trigger. He needed the betrayal to be absolute. And in that moment of attempted murder, Bumpy would drop the hammer. Not just on Sam, but on every witness in the room. To all of Harlem, to the 5 families, the message would be written in bold: you cannot kill Bumpy Johnson, because he is already 3 moves ahead of your best shooter. September 12th, 1958, 11:47 p.m. The Lenox Lounge. The joint was jumping. 300 souls packed inside. Jazz cats, street soldiers, suits, and politicians. A Friday in Harlem meant smoke, cognac, and backroom deals that decided the fate of the streets. Bumpy held court at his corner table, charming 2 councilmen about real estate in Sugar Hill. He looked every inch the Godfather. Gray suit, sharp enough to cut glass, fedora resting on the linen. A glass of Hennessy sat untouched. Then, at 11:30, Big Sam walked in. He smelled like fear and whiskey, drunk enough to dull the conscience, but sober enough to aim. Inside his jacket sat the .38 Special, the iron he'd carried for 5 years, the tool he thought would buy him a $50,000 retirement. Sam posted up by the bar, watching, sweating. Bumpy's back was turned. He looked exposed, vulnerable. At 11:47, Sam decided it was time to cash out. He cut through the crowd, hand buried in his coat, fingers wrapped around the grip. Nobody blinked. Sam was the shadow, the bodyguard. Him being close to the boss was just business as usual. Sam stepped into the kill zone, 6 feet. Then 4, 2 feet away. He whipped out the gun. The bartender caught the flash of steel first. His eyes went wide with terror. But before a scream could leave his throat, Sam leveled the barrel at the back of Bumpy's skull. He squeezed the trigger with everything he had. Click! The hollow sound of a firing pin hitting dead air. It rang out like a gunshot in the sudden silence. The band killed the music instantly. The chatter died instantly. 300 pairs of eyes locked onto Big Sam. He stood there, the heater shaking in his grip like a toy. And Bumpy Johnson? He sat there like stone, didn't even blink. Bumpy took a slow pull of his cognac, set the glass down soft, and swiveled his chair around. He just looked at Sam. Just a look. But in those eyes, there was something way colder than anger. Pure disappointment. "I was counting on you," Bumpy whispered. Those words hit Sam harder than a hollow point slug. Right then, Sam knew. Bumpy had been 10 steps ahead. He knew everything. The sit-down with Tony Marconi, the 50 large, the whole setup, every dirty detail. Bumpy could have clipped him, tossed him in the East River. Instead, he let Sam walk in here and pull that piece. Let him show his true colors to the whole room. Let him burn his own name. Shred his own honor in front of the whole neighborhood. The iron hit the floor with a clatter. Sam's knees turned to water. He crumbled. "I'm sorry. Christ, Bumpy, I'm sorry. It was for my daughter. I know about the girl." Bumpy cut him off. His voice was low, but it cut through the silence like a knife. "I've known for 6 months. You think I don't look out for my own?" Bumpy reached into his coat and flashed a thick envelope. He tossed it on the table. "Keisha's doctors. All paid in full as of this morning. There's a check for $5,000 in there, too. For the family." Tears welled up in Sam's eyes. "Why didn't you say something?" "Because I had to see," Bumpy said, cold as ice. "I had to see if you'd take the cash over the code. They're 50 large over our blood." He let that hang in the air. "Now I know." Bumpy stood up. He wasn't a giant, only 5 to 9. But right then, he looked 10 feet tall. "You're leaving Harlem. Tonight. Pack up the family and vanish. I don't care where. But if I ever see your mug again, if I even hear your name, there ain't gonna be a next time. We clear?" Sam nodded, tears rolling down his cheeks. "And Sam." Bumpy's voice went graveyard deep. "When the Italians ask what went down, you tell 'em exactly what you saw. Tell 'em Bumpy Johnson knew. Tell 'em he always knows. Tell 'em Harlem loyalty ain't for sale. And tell 'em next time I won't be so nice." Sam stood up on shaky legs. He grabbed his useless piece and walked out of the Lenox Lounge. He left New York that night, never to come back. Word is, he's pouring concrete in Detroit now. A broken man, carrying the weight of that rat move for the rest of his days. Bumpy turned to the room. 300 people stared, dead silent. They just saw something impossible. A hitman tried to take the king, and the king turned it into a classroom. "Let's get one thing straight," Bumpy announced, his voice hitting every corner. "The Italians think we can be bought. They think they can split us up. They think they can take Harlem, 'cause we're poor, 'cause we're black, 'cause we don't matter." He raised his cognac. "They're wrong. Harlem ain't on the market. Never was, never will be. And anybody who thinks different, anybody who walks onto my turf trying to buy my people, they're gonna learn the hard way. Just like Big Sam. We ain't the ones who need protection. They are." Bumpy lifted his glass high, to Harlem. And to loyalty that cash can't touch, 300 glasses went up. The jazz band kicked back in. The chatter started up again, like nothing happened, except everything just changed. Word hit the streets like wildfire. By morning, every wise guy from Boston to Baltimore knew the score. Bumpy Johnson knew about the hit for 3 weeks, and he just let it play. He exposed a rat in front of 300 witnesses, and he did it without spilling a single drop of crimson. The next day, the 5 families called for a sit-down. Frank Costello was seeing red, not at Bumpy, but at Tony Marconi for dropping the ball. But Carlo Gambino? He saw the bigger picture. "We can't touch this guy," Gambino said, voice cold as ice. We threw the kitchen sink at him. Muscle failed. Bribes didn't stick. Turning his crew was a dead end. Every time we make a play, he's already waiting at the finish line. Costello slammed the table. "So what's the move?" Gambino lit a cigar, taking his time. "We cut Harlem loose. We stick to our turf in Brooklyn, Queens, and the Bronx. Harlem is Bumpy Johnson's kingdom. Trying to strong-arm him is just bleeding us dry, costing us soldiers and cash." It was the first time the 5 families ever swallowed their pride on a turf dispute, but they had no choice. Bumpy Johnson sent a message loud and clear that night at the Lenox Lounge. He wasn't just a gangster. He was a general, a chess master, seeing 10 moves down the board. And you don't sit across from a grandmaster unless you're prepared to lose everything. The tale of Big Sam turning traitor became scripture in Harlem. The streets whispered it for decades, fathers telling sons, generation to generation. It became more than just a war story. It was a lesson in the code, about loyalty, about staying 3 steps ahead of the reaper, about what real authority looks like. The word hit the wire and spread through the underworld like wildfire. By sunrise, every wise guy from Boston to Baltimore knew the score. The families scrambled for that emergency meeting. And Carlo Gambino dropped a truth bomb nobody saw coming. "We walk away from Harlem. This man is unbeatable." It was the first time the outfit ever blinked, without firing a single shot. Bumpy Johnson ran the show for another 10 years after that night. He checked out in 1968. No bullet put him down. It was his heart that finally gave out. Ironically, right there in the Lenox Lounge where he stared down Big Sam. But listen close. Bumpy taught the world a lesson that night. The most lethal weapon isn't the heater in your jacket. It's knowing what's coming before your enemy even wakes up. It's taking their trap and making it your throne. It's playing chess while they're still playing checkers. Big Sam took 50 large from the mob. He left New York with nothing but shame. And Bumpy? He went back to his corner table, downed his cognac, and stayed the undisputed king of Harlem. Now, if you respect the hustle, do me a solid and hit that like button. And if you haven't joined the family yet, what's the holdup? We're dishing out these Bumpy Johnson legends every single day. And believe me, the next chapter is pure chaos. Leave a comment down below. Did Bumpy make the right call? Would you have let a rat like Sam walk out breathing? And hey, keep your ear to the street turn-on notifications, because next week, we're breaking down how Bumpy walked into Lucky Luciano's office without a piece on him and walked out with the biggest score of the century. You don't want to miss that sit-down. Remember, in Harlem, respect wasn't a gift. It was earned in blood. And Bumpy Johnson paid his dues every single day.